Hi, I'm Krista West of Avlea Folk Embroidery, and this is the August Flosstube. This is what's going on in the Avlea workshop, and has been going on over the last few weeks. Before I begin, I want to remind you where you can find me. You can find all of my Avlea designs at the new website. Don't worry, if you put in the address of the old one, it'll still take you to the new one. But the new address is www.avleaembroidery.com. And Avlea is spelled A, V as in Victor, L-E-A. So that's really exciting. I took the plunge and got a real website with a .com extension. So that's very exciting and just got everything shifted over. That was actually just about 2 weeks ago. So that's pretty exciting. You can also follow me on Instagram at Krista M. West. I know that's a little confusing because most people do their Instagram like by their business name or whatever. But because I do two things, because I both make Greek Orthodox custom church vestments and I do Mediterranean folk embroidery, I decided to keep my Instagram account as my name because that way I can sort of picture and show whatever I'm working on like on any given day. That just made things a little bit more streamlined for me. And I thought it might be interesting for some of you because my vestment work definitely, and my research and my experience there definitely informs my design work as an embroidery designer. So those are the places you can find me. You can also follow me on YouTube. And I want to say thank you to everyone who does follow me. I'm actually starting to get little tiny checks from YouTube. So that's kind of exciting. I've been doing videos now for, gosh, well, quite a while. And so it's very exciting to finally see that start taking off. What cracks me up is that the lined drapery how-to video has now had 49,000 views. Oh my word. I looked at it, I thought I'd read it wrong. I couldn't believe it. I'm so excited that people are like that into making lined drapes. Lined drapes are just phenomenal. I almost feel like I need to do a follow-up video. Some of you have asked for that about measuring and drapery hardware installation, stuff like that. So I'll probably do a follow-up video at some point when I have a little extra time. So anyways, moving on to today's Flosstube. We have a lot to talk about, which is really exciting. I would say that the most exciting thing for me right now is that my article was published in Taproot. So for those of you who are not familiar with Taproot Magazine is this beautiful magazine, and it says, inspiration for makers, doers, and dreamers. It has all sorts of interesting articles on herbs and gardening and crafts and all sorts of different things. It's really neat, but the really exciting thing about it is it's completely ad-free. So it is just a beautiful magazine to peruse. Really beautiful. Their spreads are really beautiful. Just gorgeous. They have really neat articles, beautiful photography. It's lovely. Well, they last December bought some of my embroidery hoop kits through Fair. And I just wrote to them and said, hey, if you ever need any more info, like let me know. And in February, they reached out to me and said, do you have any interest in writing an article? And I was like, oh, yes, I do. That'd be awesome. So I wrote an article for them called A Stitch in Time Saves Your Mind, Handcraft as a Wellness Practice. And I designed a special project for it. And so it's the full article and then let me show you, then the actual project. The chart is published here because, oh wait, there's a picture of it. Hang on, you want to see the chart. Where's the chart? The chart's here. Sorry, chart's here in the magazine with all the full instructions on how to make it into a cushion cover. That is for this cute little pillow. So I love this design. The design originated, parts of the design originated out of a vintage Latvian needlework booklet. I've since been doing a deep dive into Latvian work and seen a lot of shared design motifs and styles, elements from Greek and even going back to Byzantine designs. There's a lot of design harmony between these two countries that are seemingly far apart, but there's some new scientific research done. It's very new. I believe it's quite groundbreaking. And maybe I talked about this in the last one, but they've essentially found bone fragments in Greece that they now know through all sorts of fancy testing belong to mercenaries that came down from places like Latvia and Lithuania and that sort of a thing. So it's showing, and this is 500 BC that they're finding these fragments and dating them. And it's really interesting because it means that there's probably a much greater design interchange at that point in time than we previously thought. So that's really exciting for embroidery. And it makes sense why a lot of these designs are seen like in Greece, but then they're also like seen up in Latvia or Lithuania or even in Ukrainian folk embroidery. This is why. It's because the world was a lot more mobile than we've previously thought. Very exciting. Oh, just blows my mind when I think about those people like traveling down and picking up embroidery designs and all that stuff. So this scroll work was sort of the base motif that I started with. But because I was designing this with a beginner in mind, someone who had never taken up cross stitch, I wanted to design it so that there was never more than one color worked in any given row so that you could get the hang of it really easily. And so that's what I did. I'm going to show this up a little closer. So it's got these really cool, very easy to work, but really cool effect borders. You get this sort of chain effect, this little like link chain effect. And honestly, you're only working 3 red stitches, and then I think it's a space, and then 3 more red stitches and a space. Then on the next row, you just work 3 golden olive stitches offset and then space. And 3. So it's very, very easy. So this, and then this is finished with the just our basic Pima cotton cushion backing. And I kept it just kind of simple because for the photography and stuff, I wanted it to be kind of simple. But I actually have had this in my living room ever since, and I really, really like it. It like makes me happy when I see it. So the Taproot Magazine is very exciting. That was an incredible opportunity for me. And the deep dive into the research of stitching for wellness. Wow. I thought I knew a fair amount, and I'm here to tell you, you can just feel so good about yourself every time you sit down and pick up your needle and thread. It is so good for you. You can read the article. The kits are available only through Taproot because they have copyright on the article and the chart and the kits for 8 months. So next late spring of 2022, those kits will be available eventually on the Avlea website. But I would encourage you right now to buy them at Taproot. They'll be the same price whether you buy them at Taproot or whether you buy them through the Avlea website. Be the same price. So you can go and support Taproot, which is really exciting. Now, moving on, I just want to give a small shout out to our latest hoop kit, Thessaly Floral. I mentioned this in the last Flosstube, but this one's now up. Isn't she pretty? She's so cute. And I have some really exciting news on the hoop kit front. Up till now, I have been hand stamping every single hoop kit, and it is very time consuming. And it's also hard to get a really good stamp. And I felt like we basically end up wasting a lot of fabric, and we have a lot of seconds. And because the stamping is really hard over that big of a surface, and then the stamp pads are a little fussy, there's just a lot of issues with that. So I've been working in my investment business. I've been working with a local company here in Salem, Oregon, to help me with some cut and prep work of things like canvas and some of our interfacings. And it's a company that employs developmentally disabled adults and job trains them for other jobs in other industries. So it is a great company to support. And I was there actually picking up an order of some cut interfacing pieces, and we started chatting about the embroidery kits because they had figured out that I did those too. And they were like, well, wait, we can screen print those for you with water-based inks. And I'm like, what? They did it. They gave me a sample. It's incredible. I am so excited about it. It's going to raise the level of quality of our hoop kits like a whole nother notch, which I'm really excited. But the most exciting thing about that, and this was what blew my mind, is when the guy told me that the screen printing plates go up to 16 to 24 inches. So what that means is that I am no longer limited by a 6-inch hoop on some of the designs that I'm doing for surface embroidery kits. That means that down the road, I can start developing, say, full 16 by 16 inch cushion designs where the fabric, it's a good quality fabric, it's stamped or actually screen printed with a design in a really thin line, so it will not be visible once you stitch the design. That blew my mind. So I have all these new ideas, and I'm actually sourcing linen for that. I've got some linen samples on the way. So I'm thinking maybe in a couple of months, we'll be able to start offering screen printed linen surface embroidery kits. Right now, I'm kind of thinking like it'll be fun to like recreate some historic textiles, some embroidered things that have a larger repeat, that sort of a thing. So watch for those. Those, again, that'll probably realistically, by the time we get through all the research and development, it'll probably be like December-ish, I'm guessing. But I'm very excited about that opportunity and that option to be able to be printing larger designs on the fabric of our choice. So that means we can choose a really, really great quality fabric, and you can be basically making an heirloom surface embroidery cushion cover or a table mat or whatever you choose to make. So next up, what's in process? Well, I've got a new little free chart, which should be ready really soon. I saw this little design of these little flowers and the little checkerboard base. I saw it and I was done in colors very similar to this. I saw it on a historic Greek embroidery and I was like, that is just so cute. And I could see it on the end of a kitchen towel or on a children's dress or something, a little table runner, a simple table runner. So I'm going to be releasing this as a free chart on the free charts page. I know I haven't released a new free chart for a while. It's been busy around here. So thankfully very busy. And so the free chart will go up soon, a couple of days. And the free charts, you can just read about them. Basically, they say that they're $1, but then you just put in the code in all capital letters, free chart, and then it'll deduct that at the checkout, and then you don't pay anything. It was just the easiest way for me to figure out how to get a PDF up there. So we'll have this one out really soon. I was already thinking this would just be like so cute, like on a little child's dress or something. So this is really cute. And you could do this actually, this would easily fit on the pieces that come in the Avlea scrap kits, the little scrap fabric kits that have like some of the traditional ground cloth, some of the Mick and Me, that sort of a thing. These kind of little designs are great for that. So that's going to be going up really soon. Next design up to be patterned and all this stuff we're working on right now is the hang on. I'm trying not to block the mic because I apologize for not using the mic the last few times. I just forgot. Now I have a note to always use the mic. So this is the Corinthian Bridal Shawl design. I think I'm going to probably stick with that name. I may change the name. I've got to think about it. Oh my word. I love this design. It took me a while to like really get it designed and worked up, but I just love it. I decided that for the next few months, I wanted to do some larger designs myself. Thankfully, I have a lot of great sample stitchers helping me out right now. So I kind of sent off some of the smaller designs, the big kit designs to them because I really needed new cushions for my own living room. And so I wanted to replicate my goal with this project. It's going to take another few months, is to replicate the idea of the piles of Greek embroidered cushions that are like in village Greek homes from like the 18th and 19th centuries, 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. And so I wanted to do something that was like a border design like this. I'll show you the next one I'm working on. And I wanted to work in a similar color palette so that it would actually coordinate with my living room when they're all done. So this is the first one done and it's so pretty. And then I was so excited. I have some really beautiful Kaufman fabric that happened to match it really, really well. So when I release this, there will be a kit upgrade for that cushion backing to go with it. And this is actually a 20 by 20 inch pillow. So it's a big pillow and it's so nice and soft and lovely. This design though is so neat. If I can get this closer to show you, yep. Check out the use of the back stitches. I mean, it's just so clever. And then up here, if I can get it closer, those are back stitches and they're used to make like a larger version of a cross stitch. Oh my gosh, it's totally awesome. There's all this little intricate back stitching in here that just gives the design a whole nother level of interest and intricacy and ornateness that I just love. And I love the borders here. This pattern would actually be really versatile because you could just take the center motif like this and use it for something, maybe, I don't know, a pincushion or the center of a pillow if you didn't want to work the whole design. You could then use the little borders for different things. This little border here, the little slanty, I don't know what these are, but you see them a lot in Greek folk embroidery. I'm still kind of trying to figure out what exactly those are, but I love this little border design when they're all like kind of slanted and then outlined. So awesome. So we're working on the photography and preparing the kit for this and the pattern and the charts and all the things right now. This should release in September, I think. Yeah, probably September. I'm feeling positive about that. Okay, let's go for September. Also in September, I can't show it to you right now, but those of you who subscribe to the Embroiderers Guild of America Needle Arts magazine, I have an article there too. It was just sort of like article season for me back in the spring. They also reached out to me and asked if I would write an article on Greek folk embroidery specifically. So that was really fun to write. I did a lot of writing in the spring. And that is coming out, I believe September 10th is when they mail their issues. And for that, I did an article and a chart for, I'm calling the design Dodecanese Urn. It's a beautiful stylized urn. It's quite different from the Grecian urn series that many of you are familiar with. That was like one of my very earliest designs. This is from an 18th century embroidery from the Dodecanese Islands. And it's got a beautiful color palette of ash brown, ecru, 927 green, 355 red, and I think 729 gold. Really pretty. And it will be available as a kit on our website because they don't hold copyright to the kit on that. They only have the copyright on the article. And so the kit, chart, all that stuff will be available on the website as soon as the EGA releases their magazine. So you can look for that there if you're an EGA member. If you're a newbie to cross stitch or a newbie to the embroidery world in general, you might want to consider subscribing or becoming a member to the Embroiderers Guild of America. It's a really wonderful organization and it supports the teaching and the promulgation and spreading the word about embroidery throughout America. And there's some amazing stuff there because it's not just cross stitch. It's like all forms of embroidery. And their Needle Arts magazine is really fun to get because there's always you just learn so much new because they're getting experts in specific fields. And if you're really enjoying embroidery, I'd suggest become a member. It's a great organization to support too because they're all about promoting embroidery. So that's great. Moving along. Now, this is the second cushion cover. So remember how I just said that's the cushions for my living room. I also wanted a classic border cushion because these you see all over in Greek folk embroidery from the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. And these would be stacked like they'd be stacked like in stacks so that you could kind of see the border peeping out from every pillow. I'm not going to stack them that way in my living room, but I just love the idea of having that. And I may even do two different designs. But this design is, I'm not sure yet what I'm going to call it because it's just such a rich design and I have to kind of decide. But it's essentially an octagram design because it's 8-sided. We call those octagrams. But it's got these fabulous scrolls that make that, just take that octagram to like a whole new level. And they remind me of columns. You see marble carved columns all over Greece in the Byzantine churches, well, all over, but especially like in Thessaloniki, if you're in Thessaloniki, there's a whole bunch of Byzantine churches that have these beautiful carved marble columns. And that's what this kind of reminds me of. Then the other really cool thing that I love about this design element that they use here, and I'm gonna see if I can get close so you can see it, is, I'm gonna show it and then I'll talk about it. So there you can see it. Okay, and this is just, this is the top part. You can see me kind of working it, and then it'll go around and it'll be a full square. The thing I love about this is the use of checkerboard. I just think it is so interesting. This is sort of like a square within a square within a square. Like as I was working it, I was like, wait a second. It's so interesting because you start with the little tiny square of the cross stitch, each stitch you're making, and then you have the checkerboarding, which creates like more little square, kind of a square fill stitch here. And then you've got these making squares. And then you go out and you've got an octagram, which is essentially 2 squares with one turned diamond shape. I mean, it's just so cool, the whole thing about it. And then interestingly enough, here, these what look like triangles could actually be half of a square if you turn this into a repeating pattern. So I just felt like as I've worked on this, I feel like this is a design that I just kind of am getting to know deep on a much deeper level as I'm working it. So this I'm working on the Legacy Linen Victoria Sponge Cake. Oh, I forgot to mention, I worked the Corinthian Bridal Shawl on the traditional ground cloth. I kind of wanted a mix of fabrics in my living room to kind of create a sort of aged effect. And so those were the 2 fabrics that I'm working on. And I don't know what I'll choose for the third. I don't know if I'll choose one of these or if I'll choose something different. For the third cushion, I've been thinking about doing an all over design. Those are always fun because they take a lot of stitching, but they can be really awesome and really meditative and really lovely. So I may do that, or I may do a border. Can't really quite design. Speaking of design, I was very excited to discover last week, I had a customer who actually reached out to me and said, oh, I got your Lefkada Lattice Pomegranate Collection pattern. Those are the $5 download patterns. Those are the ones that we don't have a stitch sample for. And she's like, I saw a piece just like this in the Cleveland Art Museum online collection. I was like, oh, Cleveland Art Museum? So I go to the Cleveland Art Museum's website, and it turns out that the Cleveland Art Museum is pioneering open source collection. What this means for someone like me is it means that I can go and I can look at and study their designs of the pieces they have of Greek folk embroidery, which they have actually quite a lot, which was super exciting. I'm like, Cleveland, there's got to be a story there. But it means that I can then produce them, and I don't have to worry about anybody like saying, well, no, we own that piece and it's like copyright, you know, that sort of a thing. So, I mean, these pieces, you really can't argue for copyright on these because they've been, I mean, honestly, like the Octagram Border, I've seen it in 3 different research books. So you see a lot of the same designs kind of floating all around the historic textile world. So it is hard, but I love that the Cleveland Art Museum is really basically saying to artists like myself, saying, here's everything, use what you need. I mean, it is just such a spirit of generosity. Just blew my mind. I almost cried, actually. To be perfectly honest, when I opened it up first, and I was like, wait, it's all open source? I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible that they're doing that. And I love that they're taking these historic art forms and they're understanding that they do need to be passed on generation to generation to stay alive. So I am very, very excited. Oh, I sent them like a glowing email and thanked them, and it was all great. So that's very exciting. So I feel like those of you who live in Cleveland, like, hey, support the Cleveland Art Museum. I'll probably actually get a membership just because I want to support that work of having museums have their collections be open source and available to artists so that we can use them. Because one of the very best ways to learn about historic folk embroidery, or really any kind of art, is to study what's gone before. And I feel like every time I see a new museum collection, I learn so much more. It was interesting. For example, in the Cleveland Art Museum collection, they had this really unique all-over design, but it was made with 2 little mythical figures. One looks like a little winged horse, and one looks a little bit like a peacock. And I had seen each of those mythical creatures, the winged horse and the peacock, in separate embroideries. The peacock's all over. In fact, it's very much like a little tiny micro version of the celestial peacocks that I have on that pattern that's on the Avlea website, but very tiny. But the winged horse you see in different places. I had never, ever seen them first combined together. That was super cool. But second, they were turned into an all-over design. And I was like, that's brilliant. That's so cool. So I'm hoping to create that one as a pattern because it's open source. So I can use that photo to create a new pattern. That's just going to be very, very exciting for me. So that's kind of it at Avlea this month. It's been a little slower just for summer. I've been taking a little bit more time off, but still doing a lot of stitching because, you know, time off for me isn't time off unless I'm stitching. And I think that's everything that I have to share for you. Oh, I know one last thing is I am preparing the very first Avlea trunk show. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with what a trunk show is, it's when a designer packages up a bunch of her stitch samples and sends them off to an embroidery shop. And the embroidery shop then creates a little display so that as people come into the shop, customers can see what the actual pieces look like when they're finished, like on the actual specified fabric with the actual specified colors. And I just had never done it because, I don't know, no one had really asked, and it just hadn't really occurred to me. But I had Gary Slee at Fiber Arts in Florida ask me for it because he creates like day-long events around trunk shows. So it's really kind of a really neat idea. And I was like, well, that's a great idea. So if you have a local needlework shop that you support and you want to see them actually sign up for an Avlea trunk show, have them email me. And they can email me at avleaembroidery@gmail.com, and I can give them the particulars. but it's really pretty basic. It's like they get the trunk show for a month, and then at the end of the month, they pop it in a medium flat rate priority mail box. I email them with a shipping label. They pop the shipping label on and they ship it out to the next shop. So if you have a shop that you love that you think would enjoy that, just have them let me know, because we're trying to fill the calendar and have Avlea sort of just go on the road. So that'll be really fun. So, and in closing, I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank you for letting me do this work that I do, because I couldn't do it without you. I mean, I could, but then I'd be like the crazy textile lady in her basement, like creating embroidery patterns that nobody ever sees. Without you, I really could not do this. And I love this work so much. I mean, I've been doing this now for 4 years and I just never tire. Every time I get to work on a new design or a new project or something, I just love it. And I'm so excited that these designs are going out into the world and really being discovered. And I want to thank you for spreading the word. And that's the best way that you can support Avlea, is just share it with shops. We're now actually selling Avlea kits to a lot of like little boutique shops, like all around the US now, which is really exciting. So not just local needlework shops are picking us up, but little, like, you know, those cute little boutiques, like, you know, on the main street of like a little town, that kind of a place, are going all over. We just shipped our first shipment up to Canada. We've been shipping to Australia. Very exciting. But again, I couldn't do it without you. And I'm so grateful, so grateful that your support of my designs and my kits and my patterns is allowing me just to create more, and that together we are restoring this entire art form for a whole new generation. And it's so exciting, blows my mind. So thank you for joining me today, and I wish you happy stitching. And you know all the places to find me. You can look in the description and I'll put everything there. Have a great day.